Okay, friend, I think we have got a few lessons in here, and I hope you're starting to think about some tools you might be able to create with what we've learned so far. If not, I did think of something that we can do as well. We need to cover a few more subjects. I think this will cover them. Go ahead and you don't have to copy this exactly, but this is what we're kind of going to be doing. Maybe what I'll do is I'll show you this. Let's say we are at work somewhere and our boss needs to know we've got a whole bunch of servers, which ones are full, which ones are about to run out of space, which ones are having some trouble. And we get this huge file. Maybe this one only has 8 or so servers on it, but let's say it was 100 servers or 50 or 1,000. It wouldn't be very efficient to go through. You could go through there and go find what, and blah blah blah, try to find some 8% server like this. Maybe this is one of our trouble ones, but it's not very efficient to go through that. Control F, find it every day, things like that. What we want to do is let's read this file, let's sort all this information into an array, and then let's go through that array and try to find some servers that meets our criteria that might be in trouble. So one thing we are going to need to do is we are going to need to learn RegEx, regular expressions. It's something I wish I had learned earlier. Let's see what I have here. Okay. Regular expressions. Sorry, I should have set this up beforehand. But regular expressions are basically pattern matching. And if we want to go through a file and find all the instances of the stock price, well, the way that I did it when I was first starting is I would go through and I would say, oh, well, this string has the word stock price in it. I need to cut off 12 characters here and 11 or 13 characters here. I don't know. I'm not going to count it. And that can work, but it's not very manageable, and it's not always predictable, because maybe one day it comes in like this, and then our number is thrown off. We're in a big amount of trouble, or whatever. So instead of doing that, regular expressions allow you to define a pattern. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to define this exactly. And here we're matching this pattern, but we don't know exactly what's going to be in that middle section. Actually, we do know it's going to be a dollar. Well, actually, for now, I'm just going to take that out because that introduces some different complications. But we do know it's going to be a digit. And so what you can do is, in parentheses, we're going to start this capture group where we're capturing this information that we're most interested in. You can have multiple capture groups, but for the sake of this, or in most instances, I'm just doing one capture group per piece of information I'm interested in, though I have done more, and it's possible in AutoHotkey. But for now, let's just do one. And here we're doing the /D. This is any digit. You can do capital D for any non-digit, any W for any word, which is like, I think 1 through 3. Oh, any word character. I think it's like numbers and letters, but not symbols or blank spaces. So if I added something here, this would not work. Oh, by the way, this site, RegEx 101, is just a great tool to visualize your regular expressions without going through and figuring out trial by error. Let's do digit for now. I have a longer video on how to do regular expressions. I'll try to get that in the description of this video if you want to see more examples and continue learning that. It's definitely useful. I want you guys all to take a look at that when you have a chance. Or if you're using regular expressions and you aren't quite getting it all the way, definitely take a look at some of those examples. So in here we're capturing whatever is in between this little bracket and this one. We could even go like this if we don't always know what this part is going to be. So let's do that for now. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and grab our file and throw it in here. And let's say we want to grab the server name. Now that's going to work pretty well here because of digits. To be a little safer, maybe I'm going to say you always have to end with 2 digits. So that's going to be probably safer if in my organization all the servers end with 2 numbers. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now, how do we actually use this in AutoHotkey? Well, there is a command, RegEx. Let's look at it here on the documentation real quick. There you are. Now, RegEx is a function. You can see the parentheses, take a few different inputs, and it returns the found position. Well, I haven't found that to be particularly useful. I am more interested in the match, the part that we've got here in parentheses. Our match1 group is the server name. And I'm more interested in that. So actually the way that works, I'll just show you in the code. It's here's what it might look like by default. So our line text is going to be, let me grab it from over here. I'll just say we're looping this file and we're reading this. So our text line is equal, I'm gonna have to go more like that. Okay, so our line text is equal to this. Now when we put it into RegEx, that text line is the variable that we want to be searching through. It's called in the documentation a haystack. This one. Now we're looking for the needle, or the needle regex, which is the pattern part, this part that we wrote. So let's grab that on the clipboard. And the pattern is going to be exactly that. Okay, and this last one is kind of where the variable is being output to. Let me see what the documentation calls it. Documentation calls it the unquoted output variable. Well, the reason they want a variable is if we have more than one match, this is going to become our match, basically. It's going to become the match. The second one, let me do it like this. 2 would become our second match. But we're not dealing with that. We're only dealing with one match. So in this particular instance, we don't need that. Okay, here's that same thing, rematch 1. So I'm saying if rematch 1 is not blank, that's what that is. If it was found, in other words, if it was found, let's just use another variable called found value, and he's going to be equal to rematch 1, basically. I pulled this out of a function, so it's a little, got some leftover bits from that. So then found value can be, well, to be safe, I guess we can say else if it was not found, then found value is now equal to blank. Or the way I kind of like to do it is null. Now that's just my style, but probably more people are going to say that. Okay, well that's all well and good. This is kind of taking up a lot of space, in my opinion, just to find the server name. So I usually use this function that I wrote called fn quick regex, and basically one thing I never mentioned on our lesson on functions is you can have default values. Remember how we have that rematch 1, and I don't usually use anything other than 1 in most cases? Well, I have an option in there here where I can put the match that I want, but for most instances I'm using 1, so I'll just say basically if you mention it like this, that variable will always be 1 and you don't have to input it. So like I said, this is taking up quite a bit of space. All I want to get is the server name. I don't need 6 lines just for that, because I still have the location, the free disk space, the database size. I don't need all this, and I'm just going to be copying and pasting this for each one. It's going to get pretty long, so I like to use my function. You are welcome to it. Maybe I'll just grab my pattern. And whoa. Okay. The input was what? Text line. Let's just put that up here. I'll probably replace that. And the return value, since it's 1, or I mean, we only want 1 match, this parentheses, we don't need this part. So I'll go ahead and remove that, because by default, it'll work. If we wanted the second match, we would put it 2 like that for my particular function, or you could define it as 1, but it's already set to 1 by default, so I don't put it because this looks pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because we will use this in a loop of some kind. Okay, we don't need that anymore either. So let's look at that function a little bit more carefully. It's basically the same thing, except what? The return value. You remember what return does in our function lesson? It's going to spit this result back out. Now, if this is basically, if it's not blank like we saw before, do this. Basically spit that back out as the result. Otherwise, if it was not a match, you could say else return null, but I don't want to. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Because I said so. So we will get a null if there was no match. Okay. So let's get back. Let's little reminder. Let's say our boss says these TMI databases, don't worry about those. I want to know if any server other than a TMI database is getting pretty full. The free disk space is less than 10%, let's say. Well, I know it's that one, but in our imaginary world, this server is 80 lines long, and we can't look through it by hand every day. Or we want to get an email, or something like that. So let's go ahead and start this. I've got a file read, and what I'm doing is I'm reading that text file into a variable called the memory file. The memory file, just like our last lesson, is being split and put into a text array. So let's go ahead and run that, make sure it works. Okay, great. So we're getting quite a bit of information here. Ugh. Okay, so look, everything's going into there, but we do have a few different things that are not quite right. Maybe we don't really have control over how this text file is formatted. Maybe some other reporting tool gives it to us and we don't really have control. We can't format it the way we want it. And I kind of like the formatting. It's kind of organized. So let's figure out how to deal with that. What I want to do is, now I got this great text array with everything organized. And actually, you know what? Okay. I forgot to mention this when we went over loops. Or actually, I forgot to mention this when we went over objects. Objects have methods associated with them. And in this case, there's a method called maxIndex. And what maxIndex does is, let me show that one more time. It's going to give you the number here, the very last number, essentially. It's a good way to know how many elements are in the array. Each of these is an element. So if there's 15 elements in the array, and maybe they're not labeled 1 through 10, but they probably are, then you will get the total amount. So that's a good way to loop through your array. We're just going to loop through this array. Oops, didn't quite do that right. The method has well, that I know of, a parentheses, and I don't know if it can take an input. I never looked into that. Okay, so this is going to loop 15 times through that array. Now if you remember, our text array basically has a no labeling. So text 1 is just gonna, well, I think you remember the A index is going to become basically the line text or whatever variable. I can't quite remember what we called it. Yeah, I deleted it. So the line text is going to get the value of that. So line text will basically be one of these. Okay. Now, oh, okay, text line is what we called it. So I'll go like that. So we're going to put text line through our regex, and what does that regex spit out? It spits out the result. In this case, the server name. So I'll say the server name. Name. And I'll just keep that server name. Later we will do something with it. So maybe I'll do a message box here real quick. Now you can either do it like this or like this. I tend to prefer this when you can. I'm moving more towards this style. So let's go ahead and just run that. We're gonna see the array a null. What's that about? The text line. Server name. Something didn't work quite how I was expecting it. Text line. Let's try this. Alright, let's give that a shot. Okay, regular data. Oh, I see. Because basically the way we have it is that first line is not going to match. So that's actually a good thing we noticed. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to remove that so we don't see it every time we run. So let's say if the server name is equal to null, then what? Well, I perhaps didn't explain a whole lot when we were in the flow lesson. I apologize for that, but maybe it was good that I didn't hit you with too much at that time. So what we want to do, there's two different main options that I wanted to cover in this lesson. One was break, and the other was continue. In the context of a loop, break does something which is it finishes the loop. Let's say we're on iteration 3 of that loop and we hit the break somehow by a if statement. The break just says, okay, you're done with the rest of the array, or you're done with the rest of the loop. In this case it is an array, or looping the array. Just go to the very end and continue on with whatever was next. So in this case, exit app. Continue is what we want to use here. Continue is going to go to the end of this loop and then start on the next version of the loop. So imagine there was a message box here that said the server name. Every time it runs into null, continue is going to skip the rest of this, which is message box, and go to the next version. So if we run this, we will never see null because every time it runs into null, it skips over the rest of this. So let's go ahead and run that. See, it already skipped the first one. All we're going to get is server names. All right. I don't know how long this lesson might be a little long, but I think it's got some of the best information, so we're just going to chug through it. All right. So that's good for the server name. We are going to use the server name as kind of our default thing. If the user or the program didn't output something quite right on the server name, then let's not use the rest of that. In our imaginary job here, let's say that other information is just a mile long, and we do not want to risk getting some bad information into our array here. So let's do another if. And let's say if, well, we might need a regex. If certain other information, actually maybe I didn't quite think out that one so well. Oh, okay, here, let's do it like this. Let's say, okay, let's do it like this. If we do, oh, okay, that'll work. Let's just grab this whole thing, actually. We got like a few extra lines in there. Let's do a regex for this exact phrase. Actually, we need a parentheses. Let's just grab this word other. Let's just call this end. Now end is kind of used for something. Let's call it quit toggle. If quit toggle becomes equal to the word other because it's matching our regex, let's go ahead and use that break. And so break will, when it comes and sees this, it's going to quit out of this loop of reading all the text array. And then remember, in our imaginary world, this just goes on and on forever, and we don't want to deal with it. So let's just break out of the array and quit worrying about the rest of the file. Okay. So we still need to grab a few more pieces of information. Because of the way let's just skip location for now, just for the sake of time. Free space, I see that there's a little space here, so we might want to change our regular expression pattern a little bit. Let's plop that there. And of course, one thing I'm neglecting to do is comments. In a case like this, you probably want to start putting comments just so you can tell what it is. If you come back and maybe you didn't use a server name, maybe you were just relying on digits being 2, it would be good to remember that this is the server name. Server name acquisition or whatever. So I'll just leave it like that for now. Okay, so text line, let's see what this pattern is going to be. Let me look at that file. Did I put all this in there? I think I did. Okay, yeah, I did. So let's grab the free disk space. Now, the free disk space is not going to match that. What is it? It's going to be at least 1 digit. And there's a space here, which is why it's not working. Now you can either do in the space literally, or you can say white space. What is white space? There you go. Capital W. Or no, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's S. Yeah, any white space character. Okay, so that should get what we want there. I think that's the last one we'll do for the sake of this imaginary job. Okay, free disk space, that looks good. Oh, yeah, at least 1 digit. It might be 5% or it might be 10%. It might, if we do like this, it's not going to match for a 1-digit character, so that would be a problem. Okay, and this is not the server name, this is, oops, this is now the free space. If the free space is not blank, well, do we need this? Oh yeah, oh okay, we're going to use that in this instance. The free disk space is not null. Okay, Okay, yes, that works. In fact, we don't even need this, because if it gets past this level, then free space will probably be on that line as well. Okay. After we get, imagine there are one or two more of these for the others. Let's go down in here, and I want to build a second array. I'll put it up here so that the array is outside the loop. Let's just call this server array. We'll set it equal to blank. And let's put that in there. So server array a index the server name is now equal to the server name. Free disk space can be similar. Okay, so we've got those two. Now, at the end of this loop, in fact, let's just visualize that array real quick, like this server array. Alright, I'm guessing we have, okay, we have 11. I thought it was 10, but okay. So we're getting the server name and the free space for each of them. 60%, okay. Now these aren't labeled percent, but you know, that's just so I can do some more mathy stuff with it. Okay, well this all looks good. We didn't, because of our other rules, the quit toggle and this one, the continue, we are not getting any of these blank lines in our array, and we are not getting this other information. We're not getting these labels, or these kind of title things. So that is perfect. That is what we wanted. Now we can start looking for that information our boss wanted. Our boss wanted to know specifically, I didn't say this the first time, but let's say our boss was only interested, or we needed to write some kind of report to say, well, these TMI servers, they're allowed to be on low disk space. They're allowed to be that way because they, you know, just the nature of how they work is they're always full. They don't get new information. They're always set at a certain spot. But these databases ones, well, they fluctuate every day. And I want to know about the small ones. So we're looking for this one. But again, remember, in this idea, this thing is too long to look at by hand. So we need to figure out if this name is this long, or has this naming convention and not TMI, because TMIs are allowed to be that way and these ones are not. So we need to find this one essentially. Let's do like this. Actually, let me think here. Oh, okay, I got an idea. Okay, so let's do the same thing. We're going to loop the new array. The new array called, oh my goodness. Okay, the new array is not called text array, it's called server array. Let's go through that. And when the server name, oh, that's quite right. If the server name is equal to, would that work? Is equal to DBA? No, that wouldn't quite work because the server name has a lot of other stuff. Let's use a function called inString. I wasn't quite planning to use this. I was planning to use a regular expression to grab the server type just by taking the last 3 digits like this to say this is our input. Let's grab, there's 2 digits on the end as we know, but we don't want that. We want the word, the last 3 letters. So we could do it like that. We could put that TMI in a as a part of our array, and say if it's equal to TMI, then do this. If it's DBA, do this. But maybe we can learn a little bit about inString, which is another built-in function that gets used a lot. It takes two things by default, I think. Or, oh, okay, here we go. The description is it has a haystack, like RegEx, has a needle, which is the pattern, kind of, but it's not the same kind of needle. It's an exact match, kind of, or I'll get to it. Case sensitive, okay, this is all optional stuff as you see the bracket. Starting position, occurrence, okay, no, we don't need to use that. Case sensitive, I don't care. So we just have two. We have the needle, the haystack, and the needle. The needle is DBA. So if DBA, and I said I would explain the haystack, so I guess I or the needle part, so I have to. Let me grab this. Our server name is this. When I do the needle as DBA, I'm saying, is the word DBA anywhere in here? In this case, no, because it's a TMI server. If it was a DBA, it would be yes. So this right now, if it was this, looking for this inside of this, it would be true. So if this is inside of this, then true, else not true. So you can say else like that, but we don't want to. We're just going to say if DBA is inside there. Now, we're not quite done. In fact, I always want you to put your ifs in a parentheses, because that to me makes it more clear what you're doing. Now I'm doing something else here. I'm doing something new that I want you to learn. This is the OR operator, operand or something. I don't quite remember the label for it. But when you do if statements, maybe you don't always want to just ask one question. Maybe you want to ask, like in our case, is this a DBA, and is it low on disk space? In this case, we would say, yes, this is a DBA server, but no, it is not low on disk space. It's got 90% free disk space. So the OR is not quite what we want here. I just wanted to mention it, but it's not really used in this example. Two ampersands next to each other is the AND. So we can do two. We basically have one question here, which is in string, and then the other question is going to be, and is the disk space, free space, the free space, wait, that's not quite what I want. Look more like this. And is the free space greater than 10? Because the one that we're looking for is, or our boss said, I want to know about the servers that are less than 10%. I won't worry about anything over that. So we're going to use the word 10. But we could do, whatever we want. So this will equal true only in the servers that are DBA and that have less than 10%. So let's just say if all that is true, let's do a message box, and we'll say the server name. I'm doing this style again, so please practice with this. Okay, now what did I do here? This little dot here is a way when you're evaluating an expression to append or add. Actually, I don't even think you need it for this kind of situation. So let's go ahead and run this. I think we don't, this is going to cause AutoHotkey to be upset because it doesn't know what that means. But otherwise, I think this should run, and it should give us what we want. Okay, there it is. This server has too little free disk space and is a DBA server. Now, oh, what's this? O2 is also too slow? What's this? No, this is not quite. Huh. It should only be this one. Free space. Free space, blah, free space. I think I know what's wrong, but hopefully I'm wrong because it would be annoying to fix it. Whoops. And there you go again on me. Let's think about this. Do I have the wrong operand in here? No, it seems right to me. If inserting server and server array a index is less than equal to 10. I think what's happening, unfortunately, is it's considering this more like text than an actual number, but I thought I experimented with this the other day and it seemed to be working great. Server array max index, let's just say free space is now equal to this. Let's try that. And now it's still not quite working right. I'm just going to put a little label in here to see what kind of free space we're dealing with. Make sure our 90. That seems... Oh, I'm sorry. I do have the wrong thing. I was saying, is it greater than 10? Whoops. What have I done now? Okay, let's try that one more time. No, it's still not quite right. Oh, because I took out the free space. Okay, let's try that again. Go backwards a little bit. If 10 is bigger, okay, or less, or if this is less than 10, yes, okay. Okay, let's just do it like that. Okay, now we finally got it. The 03 has too little disk space and is a DBA server. Okay, so we got it. We got the only one, but I hate to say this again, but in our imaginary job, this server is like 200 lines long and we can't look through it by hand. Okay, and the other interesting thing is it didn't catch this 8% guy. Why? Because he is not DBA, he is TMI server. Okay, I think that's all that I wanted to cover here. My name is Chunji, and if you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter. I'm not going to be able to follow YouTube videos, you know, a month from now when you might be watching this. So ask me there. If you need help, also check out the AutoHotkey channel. They are pretty useful, but operating at a little bit higher level maybe sometimes. Go ahead and check out this URL if you do run into problems. I will have the help resources, how to get into the IRC there, and how to message me on Twitter or elsewhere. So that's going to be it for now. Thank you for sticking around. I know that was a long lesson, but if you can master this, then you can start sorting through data. And actually, before we go, one thing I wanted to mention, that text array, that was pretty big, right? That text file was probably big in our imaginary world. It was 200 lines long. We don't want to just be hanging on to that array forever, right? So when we're done with this memory file, the memory file got converted into the text array. It's good to, in my opinion, just set this to blank so that we're not carrying around that huge text file in our program forever. That's going to be annoying. You can do it like this so that you know it's a blank array, or the way I like to do it is I'll just say is now equal to blank, or blank, because now if I try to check that, I'll just see the word blank and I'll know, oh, I set it to blank somewhere. Instead of if I set it to a blank array like I originally had, I might jump in there and see, oh, it's a blank array, I never got the data, something's wrong up here. Well, actually, it would because I'm setting it blank there. Anyways, that's a good thing to do there, and we also finished eventually with the text array, right? The text array eventually we finished with, so we should also set that to nothing. Okay. Alright, that's going to do it for now. I will see you around. We're getting pretty, I think we've got a lot of skills here. I'm just going to kind of help you get them into tools, see if there's anything else to review here before I set you loose. And we can also work on our big project. I am planning to do like a kind of like a game bot or something I think would be fun as our final project. Anyways, thanks for sticking it out. You guys have a good one.